Gene Hackman's death continued to send frightening thoughts through the world when, following his passing, his daughter Leslie suddenly vanished. Without a word of explanation, without a single public appearance, Leslie evaded all questions from the police and the media, even engaging in bizarre actions such as burning many of her father's important belongings immediately after his death. This raises a major question: why is Leslie Hackman acting this way? What is she hiding? And more importantly, is she in any way connected to her father's death? Let's delve into answers in today's video. 1. Leslie Hackman's suspicious behavior. Immediately after Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa were found deceased at their villa in Santa Fe, New Mexico, public attention immediately turned to the reaction from the family, especially Leslie, the most well-known daughter of the acclaimed actor. However, she was notably absent from the funeral, issued no statements to the media, and almost completely disappeared from the public eye. This silence became even more suspicious when information surfaced that police had repeatedly attempted to contact Leslie to clarify certain details related to Gene Hackman's assets and will, but were consistently rebuffed. An individual who had previously worked with Leslie revealed that she appeared extremely anxious and frightened immediately following her father's death. While Hollywood stars collectively expressed their condolences and shared memories of Gene Hackman, Leslie completely vanished from the media. This absence was made even more peculiar by her non-attendance at her father's funeral. It's understood that the ceremony was a private affair, attended by only the closest relatives. Yet, Leslie was not present to bid her father farewell for the last time. When reporters attempted to contact her to clarify the reasons, a family representative only released a brief statement through a lawyer, emphasizing that Leslie needed private time to cope with this loss. But is this silence simply the grief of a daughter losing her father, or does it conceal something else? Clearly, this is not the normal behavior of someone grieving a parent's death. It seems more like the actions of someone trying to hide something. Suspicion deepened further when the police began investigating Gene Hackman's will and inheritance. Just weeks before Hackman's death, substantial funds had been transferred to an anonymous account, and this account was indirectly linked to some financial transactions Leslie had previously made. As the police investigation continued, they discovered that Gene Hackman's will had been amended not long before he passed away, with significant changes concerning the distribution of assets. Leslie, instead of inheriting a large portion of the estate, was to receive a smaller share than expected, while majority of the money was moved into a mysterious fund with no clear indication of the ultimate beneficiary. This could be the reason Leslie hastily withdrew from public view and avoided all investigation. Could it be that she knew about these changes beforehand and wanted to do something to control her father's assets? Or is she hiding an even bigger secret? According to sources from law enforcement, Leslie has consistently evaded summons, citing various reasons to delay cooperation with the police. In normal circumstances, children of the deceased usually cooperate to clarify issues related to inheritance rights. But Leslie is acting in reverse. She not only refuses to provide information but also abruptly leaves her residence, leaving behind many unanswered questions. Furthermore, internal sources revealed that Leslie showed signs of panic immediately after her parents' death. Close acquaintances described her as becoming more withdrawn, avoiding even those she had once been close to. Notably, a witness disclosed that on the night of the incident, Leslie was seen leaving Hackman Villa at midnight, carrying a large bag. No one knows what was in the bag, but her actions led police to hypothesize that she might have destroyed some crucial evidence related to the case. The situation grew more complex as unofficial sources revealed underlying disputes within the Hackman family. The relationship between Leslie and her parents had been strained in recent years. Some reports indicated that Gene Hackman had considered adjusting his will, potentially altering the inheritance Leslie expected to receive. Could this have contributed to her mysterious disappearance after her parents' death? As the truth gradually surfaces, the public cannot help but question, what is Leslie Hackman running from? Is this merely personal grief, or is it a sign of a larger mystery, linked to the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa? As the police investigation continues, Leslie's choice to remain silent only makes the suspicions surrounding her increasingly complex and unpredictable. 2. Signs of covering tracks. According to an eyewitness living near Gene Hackman's villa, at around 2 a.m., just days after Hackman's death, Leslie drove to her father's house. Remarkably, This villa was already sealed off for the investigation, yet somehow, Leslie managed to get inside without being immediately detected. Security camera footage from a neighbor's property shows her carrying a large bag, seemingly containing papers or important documents. In the video footage, Leslie acted hastily and nervously. She only stayed inside the house for a little over an hour before leaving, carrying multiple bags of documents. Camera images show she didn't turn on any lights inside, using only the light from her mobile phone. This raises suspicion that she didn't want anyone to know she had returned. What motivated Leslie to go to her father's villa at that hour? What was she looking for? And most importantly, why the secrecy? Less than 48 hours later, residents living near the area reported a small fire at a vacant lot not far from Gene Hackman's villa. Several witnesses stated they saw flames erupting around midnight, but no one was seen nearby. When firefighters arrived at the scene, they discovered a pile of ashes, containing many partially burned papers. Some surviving pages showed signs of signatures, seals, and financial-related content, but the majority was completely incinerated, making it extremely difficult to determine the exact content. This was not a natural fire or an accidental act, someone deliberately burned these documents. And given what had happened before, could Leslie Hackman be the person behind this incident? Could the destroyed documents be Gene Hackman's original will or important financial papers, and if that's the truth, then clearly someone was trying to conceal or destroy evidence that could change the course of the case. The question is, why was Leslie in such a hurry to take these actions? If she had nothing to hide, there would be no reason for her to secretly return to her father's house and then, coincidentally, a fire erupts destroying crucial documents. Second, the burned documents might have contained financial secrets that could completely alter the direction of the case. Some investigative reports revealed that Gene Hackman had many unusual transactions before his death, including large sums of money transferred to anonymous accounts. If the destroyed documents were related to these transactions, then clearly someone didn't want the truth to be exposed. In particular, there is information suggesting Leslie was also linked to some of Hackman's financial accounts, and if these documents were revealed, she very likely would become a suspect in the investigation. Third, Leslie might be concealing something she doesn't want the police to discover. Her evasion of the media, refusal to cooperate with the police, and hasty disappearance from public view only strengthen the belief that she is hiding a secret. If she is innocent, why would she act as if she has something to hide? Is it simply fear of being suspected, or is she truly involved in her father's death in a way that no one has yet been able to determine? These details paint a chilling prospect. It's possible Gene Hackman discovered something before he died, or he had planned to change his will in favor of someone else, and Leslie couldn't let that happen. Police are currently investigating the fire and attempting to recover the destroyed documents to ascertain their contents. However, if the crucial documents have been completely destroyed, the case could very well reach a deadlock. Nevertheless, one thing is certain: Leslie Hackman is under closer scrutiny than ever before, and no matter where she runs, the traces she left behind are gradually revealing the secrets behind Gene Hackman's death. 3. Confession of the daughter, truth unveiled. After days of evasion, Leslie, nearly exhausted, decided to confess everything. Leslie Hackman sat before the investigators, eyes red-rimmed, voice trembling as she began to recount the conflicts that had divided her and her famous father for years. She confessed that for a long time, she had neglected her father, not once calling or visiting, despite him being elderly and increasingly isolated. She spoke of the conflicts, the arguments where no one in the family would yield, and how the distance grew wider each day. Leslie admitted that she had been too arrogant, too preoccupied with her own life to notice that her father was growing older, increasingly needing attention from the children he had once loved wholeheartedly. Her biggest regret, according to her confession, was not being by his side in his final moments, not being able to say goodbye, unable to hold his hand and tell him she was truly sorry for the mistakes of the past. Tears streamed down her cheeks as Leslie said she felt incredibly guilty, that she should have spent more time with her father, that she should have realized his time was running out. She asserted that as soon as she heard the news of her father's death, she completely broke down, unable to believe that harsh truth, and that she couldn't accept his departure when there were still so many unsaid things between them. Those words, that pain, seemed sincere and moving, but what is the truth? When investigators began to revisit the details in the period immediately following Gene Hackman's confirmed death, they uncovered a truth that completely contradicted Leslie's account. Just as news of her father's death broke, Leslie and her sister Elizabeth were having lunch together at a Denny's restaurant in Burbank, California. Exclusive photos obtained by DailyMail.com show the two sisters leaving the diner in a relaxed mood, showing no signs of grief, even smiling and chatting cheerfully. This is completely at odds with the image of a daughter burdened by the pain of losing her father that Leslie had tried to portray to investigators. If she was truly devastated and remorseful as she claimed, could she calmly sit down for a meal and laugh like that? Or was it all just a staged performance to mislead public opinion? The contrast between her emotional confession and her actual actions immediately after Hackman's death inevitably makes people suspicious. Leslie is lying. Faced with a wave of public criticism, Leslie quickly spoke out to the press, explaining that the family was still awaiting the investigation results regarding the cause of Hackman's death. She emphasized that there were no indications of any health issues with her father before he passed away, that he was still healthy, even maintaining light daily exercise. However, this very statement sparked a series of new questions. If Gene Hackman was as healthy as she claimed, why did he suddenly die without warning signs? And if there were truly no signs of health problems, why hadn't Leslie contacted him for months? Why did she leave him to live in isolation without any care from his children? This question becomes even more crucial as investigators noticed inconsistencies in Leslie's statements. If she was truly remorseful for not being by her father's side in his final days, why hadn't she proactively connected with him before? If her affection for her father was genuine, why could she appear completely normal immediately after hearing of his death? Not stopping there, Leslie and Elizabeth also put forward a theory that their parents might have died from carbon monoxide inhalation. This could be a plausible explanation for the sudden death of both individuals at the same time. However, this theory was quickly dismissed when authorities investigated Hackman's house and concluded that there were no signs of any toxic gas leaks. This means that the theory Leslie and Elizabeth proposed was completely unfounded. Why were they so quick to assert a cause without evidence? If they truly didn't know the cause of their father's death, why try to steer public opinion in a specific direction? Were they intentionally misleading investigation to cover up something? The contradictions in Leslie's words only make people more suspicious that she is not telling the whole truth. Another detail that further makes the public question the sincerity of Leslie and Elizabeth is the real relationship between them and Gene Hackman before his death. Hackman had lived in seclusion for many years, no longer maintaining close ties with Hollywood or other social connections. He was almost isolated from the outside world, but even more notably, his own children had not actively kept in touch with him. An elderly, frail father living alone should have received care from his children. But why didn't Leslie and Elizabeth frequently visit or care for him? They always claimed to love their father, but why did none of them proactively appear in Hackman's life when he was alive? This leads many to ask a crucial question: was their appearance immediately after Hackman's death truly out of affection, or just a formality to protect their public image? Despite Leslie's attempts to paint a tragic picture of regret and grief, her actual actions reveal a completely different story. Just one day after Hackman's death was announced, Elizabeth and Leslie were spotted at a Denny's restaurant in Burbank, California. Exclusive photos from DailyMail.com show they didn't appear grief-stricken as they had portrayed to the media. On the contrary, they seemed quite relaxed, even smiling as they left the diner. This composure and lack of any sign of mourning immediately led the public to question, if they truly mourned Hackman, how could they so quickly return to their daily lives and casually dine out? This action is completely contrary to the image of grieving daughters they had presented earlier. The public couldn't help but wonder, was their grief genuine, or just a staged act to mislead the public? If they were truly grieving, why hadn't they shown any concern for their father when he was alive, only appearing after his death? This question becomes even more important when considering the inconsistencies in their testimonies. It's not just Elizabeth and Leslie's actions that are contradictory, but even their statements are inconsistent. Leslie asserted that her father was in good health before his death, regularly practiced Pilates and yoga, and showed no signs of serious health problems. Yet, immediately after, they both proposed the theory that Hackman and his wife might have died from carbon monoxide leaks. This is a deeply contradictory detail because if Hackman was truly as healthy as Leslie claimed, why would he suddenly die mysteriously without warning? And if they genuinely suspected the cause of their father's death, why hadn't they shown any concern in the days prior? More notably, authorities investigated and confirmed that there were no signs of toxic gas leaks at Hackman's residence, completely dismissing this theory. This raises a crucial question: why did Elizabeth and Leslie try to steer public opinion towards an unfounded theory? Were they intentionally misleading to cover up something? And if Hackman's death wasn't due to toxic gas, what was the real cause? It's important to remember that Gene Hackman possessed a multi-million-dollar fortune, including numerous properties and royalties from the films he starred in. If Hackman were still alive, might he have intended to change his will? Did someone in the family have a motive to hasten his death? Moreover, the fact that Hackman and his wife died at the same time also raises many questions. If this was truly a natural death, why did both die in separate rooms? What happened that night? The conspiracy theory involving Gene Hackman's two daughters quickly spread after investigators dismissed the carbon monoxide leak hypothesis. Immediately following Hackman's death, Elizabeth and Leslie attempted to push the idea that their parents might have died from toxic gas inhalation, a theory that sounded plausible but was quickly rejected after police thoroughly inspected the house and confirmed no signs of toxic gas leaks. This made the public wonder, was this information intentionally spread to mislead the investigation? There are several reasons to believe that the gas inhalation theory might not be true. Firstly, Hackman didn't live alone. He lived with his wife, Betsy Arakawa, and if there was indeed a carbon monoxide leak, why would both be affected simultaneously without any prior warning signs? Typically, people suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning will experience symptoms like headaches, dizziness, or gradual loss of consciousness before death. But according to initial information, Hackman and his wife showed no prior symptoms, leading many to doubt the validity of this theory. Secondly, why were Hackman's own daughters the first to propose this theory, instead of the police or investigators? If they truly didn't know the cause of their father's death, why so quickly jump to such a conclusion without evidence? Were they trying to steer public opinion in a certain direction to conceal another truth? This raises another question: if not toxic gas, then what is the real cause? And if someone is intentionally spreading false information, what is their motive? Another theory put forward involves family conflicts. One of the basic rules in investigating mysterious cases is to ask who benefits most from the victim's death. In Hackman's case, the answer very likely lies in the issue of inheritance. Hackman was not only a famous actor but also possessed a multi-million-dollar fortune, including numerous valuable properties and royalties from the films he starred in. If there is a conspiracy behind his death, the question is who would benefit most. Firstly, Elizabeth and Leslie could inherit a large portion of the estate. If Hackman died without a clear will, the law might divide his assets equally among his legal heirs, including his children. But another crucial question is, did Hackman intend to change his will before his death? If so, who might have had a motive to prevent that from happening? Secondly, the distant relationship between Hackman and his daughters raises suspicions about financial motives. If Hackman and his wife planned to leave their assets to someone else instead of their daughters, could this be a reason why someone would want to expedite his death? Finally, a noteworthy detail is that the bodies of Hackman and his wife were found in two different rooms. If they truly died of natural causes, why this separation? Could a third party have staged the scene to make it look like a natural death, but in reality, to conceal a crime? These questions remain unanswered, but the deeper one delves into the case, the more unusual details emerge. Is Leslie truly remorseful, or is she just trying to mislead public opinion to conceal some truth? Was Gene Hackman's death merely a tragic coincidence, or is there a more complex conspiracy being covered up? And most importantly, who would benefit most from his passing? 4. Gene Hackman's immense fortune, who will benefit? Gene Hackman's immense wealth is not only a legacy he left behind after decades of dedicated work in the arts but has also become the focal point of controversy, suspicion, and family conflict immediately following his death. No one can deny that Hackman was one of the greatest movie stars of the 20th century, but alongside that fame, he also possessed a considerable fortune, estimated to be in the tens of millions of dollars, including real estate, film royalties, investment shares, and undisclosed financial assets. One would expect that after his passing, this inheritance would be divided transparently according to his wishes, but a surprise twist occurred. Gene Hackman's will was changed shortly before his death, and the majority of the assets no longer belonged to his biological children. According to documents provided by Hackman's legal representatives, several months before his death, Hackman made significant changes to his will. These changes not only affected how the assets were distributed but also raised a series of suspicions about the real motives of the person behind this decision. Previously, Hackman's will had divided his assets relatively fairly between his children and several charities he favored. However, in the latest update, a large portion of the assets was no longer designated for Leslie, Elizabeth, or close relatives, but instead, was transferred to an anonymous fund with no clear identification of the ultimate beneficiary. This is the detail that makes the case more complex and mysterious than ever. Who is really behind this anonymous fund? If Hackman genuinely wanted to leave his assets to an investment or charitable fund, why not publicly disclose the identity of the managers or the intended use? Legal experts suggest that this fund could be a way to conceal the identity of the true heir, and if so, someone had a very strong motive to ensure that Hackman's inheritance was not divided in the usual manner. It is possible that someone influenced Hackman's decision right before his death, and may even have orchestrated things so that he could not reverse this decision again. As soon as the contents of the new will were announced, a wave of fierce reaction erupted from the Hackman family. According to close sources, Hackman's children, especially Leslie, were extremely angry upon learning that their inheritance rights had been significantly reduced. More notably, Leslie had a heated argument with her father just months before his death. This argument, according to some witnesses, was directly related to the issue of assets. Leslie, who had a less than harmonious relationship with her father for many years, seemed to have tried to influence him to ensure she received a larger share of the inheritance. The will being changed shortly thereafter, coupled with Leslie's strange actions after her father's death, leads many to question, could she be involved in his sudden passing? Leslie's actions after Hackman's death further fueled suspicions. Immediately upon hearing of her father's passing, instead of grieving or staying to assist with the investigation, she hastily disappeared from the media. Not only that, security cameras recorded her returning to Hackman's villa in the middle of the night, collecting some documents, and quickly leaving. Shortly after, a mysterious fire broke out in a nearby area, where partially burned papers were found, suspected to be the will or important financial documents. If Leslie truly had nothing to hide, why would she act this way? It doesn't stop there. Leslie also evaded the police when they requested her cooperation in the investigation of Hackman's assets. She made all sorts of excuses to delay providing information, hired a private lawyer, and almost completely cut off contact with all close family members. Police also reviewed some unusual financial transactions in Hackman's accounts right before his death, and coincidentally, large sums of money were transferred to accounts linked to Leslie. This raises a serious question: could she have been the one who influenced Hackman's will for her own benefit? And if she did, was Hackman's death truly a natural event, or was there some arrangement involved? Public opinion is divided into two camps. One side believes Leslie might just be trying to protect her reputation and avoid being caught up in baseless rumors, but the other side believes she is directly involved in the case. The contradictory signs in her testimony, her unusual actions immediately after Hackman's death, and especially the sudden change in the will, all suggest that there might be a conspiracy behind Gene Hackman's death. If Leslie is truly not involved, why is she unwilling to cooperate with the police? If she has nothing to hide, why destroy documents? If she was truly grieving her father's passing, why could she calmly go to lunch with her sister right after hearing the news of his death? These questions remain unanswered, but the deeper the investigation goes, the more unusual details emerge. Another theory also deserves consideration: if not Leslie, then who is really behind the change in Hackman's will? It's possible that a mysterious figure manipulated the situation, exploiting the strained relationship between Hackman and his daughter to alter the asset landscape in their favor. The anonymous fund Hackman left behind may not simply be a financial vehicle, but also a tool to conceal the identity of the real beneficiary. Gene Hackman's death is not simply a sad Hollywood event but has become a mysterious case, with a series of unusual signs and unanswered questions. What the press initially described as a natural death of a film legend and his wife gradually revealed many contradictory details, leading the public to inevitably suspect a larger conspiracy being concealed. Most notably are Leslie Hackman's actions immediately after her father's death. Instead of grieving or supporting the investigation to clarify the cause of Hackman's death, she engaged in a series of suspicious moves, hastily entering the villa in the middle of the night, taking away important documents, destroying evidence, evading the police, and making contradictory statements about her father's health. Along with that, the sudden change in Hackman's will right before his death, the transfer of the majority of assets to an anonymous fund, and Leslie's abnormal attitude further fuel suspicions that there was some orchestration behind this entire affair. When all the evidence and developments are pieced together, a scenario becomes increasingly clear: either Leslie is a central figure in the plan to alter the will and conceal the truth, or she is trying to protect a secret that, if exposed, could overturn the entire case. Her attitude towards her father before and after his death is completely contradictory. While she claims to regret abandoning Hackman, evidence shows she had no contact with him for a long period. Immediately after her father's death, instead of organizing a funeral or expressing grief, she and her sister were spotted dining at a local restaurant in a relaxed mood, showing no signs of someone grieving. This inevitably leads the public to question: is Leslie's sorrow genuine, or just a performance to cover up a carefully calculated plan? One noteworthy point is that during the investigation, police repeatedly tried to contact Leslie, but she consistently evaded and refused to cooperate. She hired a private lawyer and almost disappeared from the media, refusing to answer any questions about her father's assets or the suspicious actions she took immediately after Hackman's death. If she is truly not involved in the case, why act like someone guilty? If she has nothing to hide, why refuse to provide information that could help clarify the case? Leslie's behavior only makes the theory of a conspiracy to seize Hackman's assets more plausible than ever. Although investigative agencies are still working to find the truth, the most important question remains open: will the truth ever be revealed, or will it be buried forever with Gene Hackman? In Hollywood history, there have been many mysterious cases involving famous stars that ultimately never had satisfactory explanations. Will Gene Hackman's case become one of them? Do the figures behind this plan, if any, have enough power to manipulate the entire investigation and cause all evidence to be buried over time? Or will justice ultimately prevail and the truth come to light? One thing is certain: what happened surrounding Gene Hackman's death is not just a coincidence. Too many unusual signs, too many shady actions from those close to him, and too many unanswered questions. If Leslie is truly running from the truth, how long can she evade it? And if the truth is concealed, who will be held accountable for what happened? Gene Hackman's death may be the end of a legend's life, but it could also be the beginning of an investigation that will shake Hollywood. And no matter how long the truth is buried, it will eventually find its way to the surface. Gene Hackman case increasingly reveals suspicious details, but the biggest question remains unanswered: why did Leslie Hackman have to flee? What is she hiding? Is it the truth, a conspiracy, or a terrifying secret no one knows? Police are still investigating, but will justice be served, or will everything be buried forever? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to continue following the latest developments.